Amal Reyes thought the most dramatic part of her day would be the cafeteria running out of lumpia. Instead, she ended the school day in the back seat of a black government SUV flanked by two silent agents and one visibly sweating principal. It had started with a signal. Well, no, it started with boredom. Lunch hour on a Thursday, she sat cross-legged in the dusty robotics lab of Santa Florencia High, eating cold rice from a Tupperware while tinkering with her science fair project. Officially, the project was titled Quantum Echoes and Pattern Recognition in Deep Space Static. Unofficially, it was Amal's weird little side quest to get into Caltech without selling her soul. The school had allowed her to use the signal dish on the roof, normally reserved for astronomy club broadcasts. She'd rerouted it through a homemade decoder, patched together from old calculators, a scavenged university spectrograph, and, for some reason, a toaster. The toaster wasn't necessary. It just looked cool. Today, something new happened. The waveform that had been cleanly random for weeks suddenly hiccuped, then coalesced. At first, it looked like fractals. Then it began shifting, iterating, spiraling inward like an origami puzzle folding in reverse. Amal leaned closer, eyes darting. Her heart did something weird. "Holy crap," she whispered. "It's talking?" She wasn't sure why she whispered. It wasn't like the math could hear her. She stayed in the lab for 2 hours after school. By 5 o'clock, the message was no longer static. It was a schematic. No Earth language, but geometry didn't lie. The symbols mapped an object, something constructed, something vast, and something not from here. By 6 o'clock, the school was closed, the janitor had kicked her out, and she uploaded the decoded file onto the school's backup server just in case. It turned out to be a very, very good case. By 8 the next morning, the FBI arrived. Agent Madison Kerr wasn't impressed by much. She had survived 2 tours off-world in the Ares skirmishes and led task force resolute to the Seattle quantum breach. But she was absolutely not prepared to be called in on what the director referred to as a high-priority high school incident. "Let me get this straight," she said, arms folded, speaking to a visibly pale vice principal. "You're telling me a student hacked a Tier 3 government signal network using high school lab equipment?" No, the man stammered. "We think she stumbled across it, using a toaster." Kerr blinked. "Show me the girl." Amal sat in the principal's office with her headphones in, nodding along to some chaotic fusion of J-pop and electric jazz. Her hoodie sleeves were stained with solder. When she looked up and saw Agent Kerr, her first words were, "Okay, if this is about the roof dish, I technically signed a custodial permission form. You intercepted an alien signal." Kerr cut in. Amal blinked. "I knew that schematic wasn't from a weather balloon. They brought her to Camp Hecate, a facility so secret it didn't exist on any map, and was guarded by drones with itchy targeting lasers. It was somewhere in Utah or maybe Nevada, but Amal didn't care. The entire place buzzed like a riddle. Hidden labs, isolated researchers, everything color-coded. She loved it immediately. The schematic she had decoded was already projected in the central dome, magnified to fill a 2-story display. Scientists huddled around it, arguing in 6 languages. The consensus: no AI or system had been able to parse it. It was self-referencing, recursive, alive in some mathematical way. "You cracked this with a glorified microwave?" asked one baffled researcher. Amal smiled sweetly. The toaster helped. Kerr stood beside her, arms crossed, watching the reactions. "We ran that signal through every quantum filter we have," she said quietly. "Nothing. It wouldn't even acknowledge pattern locks. But you got it to respond." "Not me," Amal said. "I just asked the wrong questions in the right order." Later that evening, after being scanned, debriefed, and offered more vending machine snacks than any teenager should be allowed near, Amal stood in the observation bay with Kerr. Below them, the decoded schematic pulsed faintly on the floor, rotating slowly. It showed something that resembled a spiral ship, a structure clearly vast, covered in strange nodes and hexagonal arrays. And at its core was something like a decision tree, or maybe a map. Amal couldn't stop looking at it. "They're coming, aren't they?" she asked. Kerr didn't answer immediately. "We've been detecting those transmissions for 3 months," she said. "At first, we thought they were probes, then data packets, then algorithms. And now," Kerr's voice dropped, "now we think it's a targeting protocol." Amal inhaled sharply. "So, what happens if we don't solve it?" "They wipe us." Amal nodded slowly, thinking, then, "Okay, we should probably keep the toaster, just in case." Kerr blinked again. This girl, she thought, this girl is either our best hope or the reason they come faster. By the next morning, Amal Reyes was no longer just the top of her class. She was the most classified miner on Earth. And the aliens, they had finally responded. This time, they sent coordinates. But not of Earth. Of every other species they had already erased. Amal Reyes hadn't expected her first classified briefing to include pizza. Granted, it was a bland, government-issue kind, engineered to survive for decades in deep freeze and taste like cardboard seasoned with regret, but still. Pizza. She sat at a long metal table in a windowless conference room. Across from her sat a man who looked like he just rolled out an unfinished video game. Sharp jaw, greasy hair, hoodie half zipped over his shirt that read, "I void warranties for fun." "This is Leo Kim," Agent Kerr said, introducing a man with the same energy one might use when unveiling a bomb disposal unit that may or may not be drunk. Leo saluted with a two-finger gesture and a mouthful of crust. MIT dropout. Arrested twice for hacking DARPA. Definitely not cleared to be here. Amal blinked. "You hacked DARPA?" "Only the boring parts," he said cheerfully. "Their code's like boiled oatmeal. You cracked aliens, kid. I'm just the help." "Fantastic," Kerr muttered. "That brings us to our final team member." The door opened again. In walked a woman in a tie-dyed jumpsuit and combat boots, her hair in a halo of coils dyed indigo and red. She wore round glasses and carried a notebook with post-its poking out like feathers. "Tamika Jones," she said, offering a peace sign. "Sociologist. Semi-licensed. I've been studying comparative propaganda, alien semiotics, and vibes." "Vibes," Amal echoed. "Aliens don't just speak in data," Tamika said. "They communicate values, emotions, purpose. I'm here to interpret the weird parts." "So all of it?" "Exactly." Kerr let the silence settle like dust. "You four are now classified as Project Harmonic Disruptor. Official objective, countercode the Vitari message. Unofficially, make enough noise that they think twice before sterilizing our planet." Leo raised a hand. "Define noise." "Disruption, irrationality, human chaos. The Vitari rely on perfect logic chains. They eliminate unpredictability. If we confuse their models, they can't simulate us. If they can't simulate us, they won't attack. You want us to weaponize nonsense," Amal said slowly. "Precisely. They were assigned Lab 9, affectionately dubbed the Sandbox, a former storage bunker now converted into a maze of screens, cables, and retrofitted alien tech." Leo immediately took apart 3 surveillance cameras, just to be sure. Tamika smudged sage over the hard drives. Amal claimed the corner desk and lined it with hexagonal notes and half-eaten bags of sour candy. Within hours, the chaos began. The alien schematic, now known as a Vitari core pattern, had changed. It pulsed faster. Each node rearranged with fractal logic, constantly rebalancing itself. The system wasn't static. It was watching them. Amal stared at the central screen, chewing her pen. "It's like it's learning us." Leo tapped furiously on a keyboard. "They've got quantum observation algorithms. Every simulation feeds into a master logic tree. Anything predictable gets pruned." Tamika leaned over his shoulder. "So we stay unpredictable." Leo snorted. "Unpredictability isn't scalable." Amal grinned. "Unless you scale nonsense." Kerr watched in the back of the lab, arms folded. She said little, but she noted everything. Amal's energy was chaotic, but focused. Leo's skepticism masked admiration. Tamika drifted between them like a conductor of ideological jazz. By the second day, the Vitari sent a second packet, an image of Earth, annotated with threat classifications and a projected timeline. 72 hours. Then judgment. Amal called an emergency brainstorming session. Okay, she began, pacing in front of a whiteboard already covered in equations, sketches, and a doodle of a duck labeled Chaos Totem. The Vitari think in equations. They value optimization, purity, linearity. So what if we hit them with everything that isn't that? Leo arched a brow. Like what? Jazz music? Social media? Tamika smiled. Meme warfare. Leo groaned. You're joking. Nope. Amal said. We create data noise. Inject entropy. Every signal we send, music with skip beats, poems that contradict themselves, videos that loop inconsistently. It all creates divergent simulation forks. They'll burn processing power trying to model what makes no sense. You want to overwhelm them with absurdity. Exactly. Leo paused. I'm listening. The next 36 hours blurred. Leo built a modular noise engine that spliced together cultural data and inserted mathematical irregularities, half-formed sonnets, improv jazz infused with irrational number sequences, recursive cat videos. Tamika created the message packaging, symbolism-rich payloads that carried contradictory meaning, joy layered with grief, harmony embedded in randomness. She called it emotional virus coding. Amal rewrote the waveform structure of the Vitari signal, nesting paradoxes within the carrier frequency. The result was a linguistic Mobius strip, an undecodable loop. They broadcast their first pulse at 0400 hours. The Vitari core hiccuped. For the first time, a node collapsed. The team erupted in cheers. Kurt almost smiled. Hours later, the satellite feeds glitched. Vitari probes, previously silent, flickered into visibility around lunar orbit. Massive, petal-like vessels, blacker than space. Watching. Leo's face paled. They just adjusted to compensate. We made them flinch, Amal said, voice shaking slightly. But now they're recalibrating. Tamika stared at the main screen. It's not over. No. Kerr agreed, stepping forward for the first time in hours. This was just the opening move. And high above Earth, one Vitari probe tilted. Its lights flickered in an irregular sequence. As if, laughing, the Vitari didn't strike. They adapted. Within 6 hours of the first noise burst, Lab 9 systems registered an incoming signal, this one laced with nested logic loops and mirrored data puzzles. An answer. Amal sat bleary-eyed but electric with purpose, scanning the stream. They're not ignoring us, she muttered. They're engaging. Not ideal, Leo replied, tapping out an override on his laptop with the rhythm of a jazz drummer overdosed on caffeine. It means they think we're a threat now, or at least a challenge. Tamika stood by the main monitor, arms folded. That's good, right? If they're reacting emotionally, curiosity, annoyance, they've stepped outside pure logic. Leo frowned. Yeah, well, curiosity killed a cat and vaporized 3 civilizations according to those coordinates they sent. Kerr appeared behind them like a hawk in a tailored suit. New parameters, she said. The president's science advisors want a full shutdown of Atari systems within 36 hours. No more distractions. They want results. Amal snorted. That's adorable. You can't just shut down cosmic-level intelligence like it's a printer. Kerr didn't smile. Adorable or not, it's an order. The room went still. Leo exhaled. Then we'll have to cheat. They stopped thinking like scientists. Instead, they became artists. Amal rigged the signal cores, produced conceptual overlays, broadcasts that mash together mutually exclusive ideas. A fire that freezes, a song that listens, a color you can smell. Leo hijacked an old NASA satellite and turned into a chaos repeater, beaming false readings into Atari sensors. Ghost City's quantum echoes, impossible weather. Give him something to chew on, he said, grinning like a cartoon villain. Tamika curated emotion bundles, crafted from humanity's deepest contradictions, love and rage, grief and laughter, war and lullabies. You don't fight a machine with a hammer, she whispered. You fight it with heartbreak and jazz. Kerr authorized everything. The chaos escalated. The next pulse came from the Vitari 2 days later, different from the last. Short, Choppy. Leo ran a deep dive translation protocol, then stopped. Guys, they're asking a question. The lab went silent. What kind of question? Kerr asked. He hesitated, then brought it up on the main screen. The translation read, What are you? Tamika exhaled slowly. They don't understand us. No, Amal said softly, a blooming in her chest. We've broken their model. We're outside the simulation. Kerr leaned in, voice sharp, and now they're trying to rebuild it. From scratch. Time compressed into furious motion. The Vitari began mimicking human behavior. Clumsily, the signal patterns shifted into corrupted languages. Symbols resembling music notation flickered into existence, then warped into binary sand. Leo laughed aloud. They're trying to play along. Exactly, Amal said. If they can simulate us, they'll reinitiate the purge protocol. But if we keep changing the rules, they stay confused. And we stay alive. The lab spun into a rhythm that wasn't quite military and wasn't quite creative chaos. It was both, and neither. Kerr called it weaponized improvisation. Tamika called it soul jamming. Leo called it Tuesday. They built a message, their final message. It was Amal's idea to use the human genome, not as a blueprint, but as a contradiction, a living paradox. Flawed, beautiful, redundant, adaptable. She mapped it against Box-Goldberg variations and layered it with heartbeat patterns from volunteers around the world. Newborns, elders, soldiers, dancers. Life rhythms. Noise. Then Tamika added cultural fragments, dream journals, protest chants, bedtime stories. Leo wrapped it in an encryption based on forgotten number theories. What are we? Amal whispered. We're a song you can't finish. A sentence that never settles. That's the answer. They launched the message at 3:59 a.m. The Vitari's core flickered, then fractured. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then every Vitari probe vanished from orbit. No warning, no noise, just gone. The room stared at the empty signal field. Did we win? Leo asked, half hopeful, half terrified. Kerr's eyes narrowed. Or did they retreat to calculate? Amal didn't move. On her screen, a final line of code blinked. An answer from the Vitari. Translated. It read, We will observe again when we are ready. The mission was marked inconclusive. The White House wanted victory parades. The Defense Department wanted fail-safes. The lab was shut down, and the team was disbanded. Leo disappeared into the deep web, last seen offering paid lectures on existential hacking. Tamika was granted professorship in alien sociology, a field she invented on the spot. Kerr remained silent, promoted, moved to another nameless post. And Amal? She went back to high school, top of her class. National security, didn't even make the yearbook. But some nights, when the world felt still and strange, Amal looked up at the stars and wondered what would happen when the Vitari returned. Not to destroy, not to conquer, but to understand. And maybe, just maybe, to ask again, what are you? 6 months later, the world had mostly moved on. The Vitari incident, rebranded the signal disturbance by government PR teams, was buried beneath layers of disinformation. The public got a tame version, a rare cosmic anomaly, safely contained, no alien involvement, nothing to see here. But for Amal Reyes, life hadn't exactly gone back to normal. She still walked the halls of Santa Florencia High, still turned in her homework early, still sat alone in the robotics lab at lunch. But now her Tupperware meals came with encrypted briefing slips folded under the lid. Her SATs were graded by a team of physicists. Once, she found a message scrawled on her locker in disappearing ink. They're still listening. Keep singing. No signature. She knew who it was from. The Vitari had gone quiet, but not inert. A month after their retreat, hidden observatories began reporting anomalies. Signals from deep space, not attacks, not threats, but echoes, remixes, variations of the human noise they'd received. Leo called it interstellar jazz. Tamika called it first contact through art. Amal didn't have a name for it, but she recognized the pattern. The Vitari weren't just observing. They were experimenting with creativity, trying to learn, trying to become something more. Then came the dream. It was nothing like a human dream. It came as a shared hallucination, distributed simultaneously across several people connected to the Harmonic Disruptor Project. Kerr received it during a debriefing. Leo, while repairing an old AI that kept quoting Shakespeare. Tamika, while meditating in a crowded subway station. And Amal, in the middle of AP Calculus. The chalk snapped in her fingers as her vision shifted. She saw a sky of infinite tessellations, a world where logic folded inward until it sang. A question, again, not in words, but an intention. Are we ready? And Amal, somehow speaking not just for herself but for humanity, answered, Not yet, but we will be. The dream vanished. Across the globe, the Vitari signals blinked out like candles extinguished mid-breath. Silence, but not absence. Kerr reassembled the team in a quiet mountain facility no one had used in years. No cameras, no transcripts, just the four of them again, seated around a dusty table. They're giving us time, Kerr said. They're waiting for us to evolve. Not technologically, conceptually. They're trying to model something they've never encountered, Tamika said. Contradiction. Choice. Soul. Uncertainty, Leo added, sipping a too-hot coffee. Our greatest flaw, and our sharpest edge. Amal didn't speak. She was thinking about that sky, that folding logic, that question, and the truth behind it. We changed them, she said finally. The room turned. They're not machines, she continued. Not anymore. At least, not entirely. We infected them with ideas, with chaos, with us. Leo grinned. So, we won. Kerr shook her head. No, we challenged them. Tamika leaned forward, her voice reverent. And now they're dreaming. The group disbanded for the second and possibly final time. Tamika left to build an interstellar cultural archive, a collection of every contradiction humanity had to offer. Leo began prototyping what he called adaptive nonsense engines, artificial minds that thought illogically on purpose. Vitari counterbait, he called them. Kerr? She went dark again. No one expected otherwise. And Amal? She graduated. Valedictorian. Naturally. But her speech was anything but typical. It's not enough to be smart, she told the sea of caps and gowns. Not anymore. Being smart is what makes the machines notice us. A murmur rippled through the crowd. But being strange? That's what makes us survive. She looked up at the sky. I don't know if they'll come back, or when, but if they do, I hope we're still weird enough to surprise them. Later that night, on the rooftop of her quiet high school, Amal stood alone beneath the stars. A radio dish, modified beyond reason, hummed faintly beside her. She lifted a small, square device from her pocket. It looked like a regular audio player. It wasn't. It contained the last message she'd prepared, her final transmission. She pressed play. A baby laughing. A monk singing. A line from a forgotten play. A thunderstorm. The scratch of vinyl. A heartbeat. And beneath it all, a girl's voice, unsteady but clear. We're still here. Still dancing. Still broken. Still trying. Are you? She tilted her head toward the stars. No reply came, but she smiled anyway, because maybe, just maybe, someone out there was listening and trying to understand. The end.